So eventually, sooner or later, they will give you a solo. And when they say bass solo, some people leave the room and get a drink, but we don't want that to happen. We want them to be so captivated by what you're playing that they're going to stay there and listen. And the way you can catch their ear is playing something very melodic, and it sounds like you sort of know your way around the changes. So we're going to use the 2-5-1 changes, and most times in the jazz world, they'll just say 2-5-1 to E flat. So you know that if they're going to end up on E flat as the 1, it's going to start with the F to the B flat to the E flat. So be aware of that. It doesn't really matter what key you're in. It's just when they say 2-5, and for instance 2-5 to C is going to be D, G, C. So that's all it is. So you want to learn 2-5 progressions as much as you can around the neck of the instrument so that you're just comfortable. So we'll just let a progression play, and then I'm going to solo over it, and then I'll explain some of my choices afterwards, okay? Here we go. Okay, so you may hear some of the patterns and shapes that we worked on earlier. I used some of the minor 7 arpeggios, so if we were in the G minor, and again we have our choice whether we want to do an ascending arpeggio or a descending. So if the chord is G minor, so okay, or G minors. And then we ended up on the F major 7. So you heard this pattern again. We did that earlier, and then we just changed it to a minor. So it sounds like we want it to sound like we know where we're going, and we have a concept of what the chords are. And again, we're using the basic shapes and arpeggios that we learned. G minor, for instance, and I just keep going. And then same thing. That's the dominant 7. And then the major 7. So it's just combinations of ideas of all the things that we've learned here, but it's when you go to solo, it just becomes your own version of the melody. But if you have those tools and you understand what those chords are, it's going to make you sound like you actually know what you're doing, or it's just going to make for a more interesting solo. So once again, I'm going to solo through that pattern and see if you can recognize some of the things that we've gone over. Here we go, one more time. See, so all the notes are here. It's just a matter of coming up with a real cool combination of the notes. Again, so I'd love to hear what you do with that progression, soloing over it. First, walking over it, just the walking bass line, and then a solo. Have fun with it, though.